And we're back for the end. I got nothing to add to that. It's just like, yeah, this is gonna be the last one. Okay, so I did some stocking up. Mainly, I found Link a new bow. I basically went to Robbie, stocked up on a buttload of ancient arrows, and got a bow on top of it. And yeah, and I was gonna go. We'll sleep in Link's bed to get him back to full strength. And then it's like we had a little cutscene where we put the little picture we got from Cass up in the house. So that was sweet. You okay? Cat's sneezy. Okay, so anyways, and I totally didn't sit in a fire to get me at a low health point to make this rest in bed extra satisfying. Yeah, in the morning, we fight. Alrighty. Time to go mess up a evil Dark Lord. And I'm just gonna go to my travel medallion that I set at the little fountain in Hyrule. So yeah, we're wrapping this up. We're just gonna I was thinking it's just like, do we want to go after, run around Hyrule Castle is a whole dungeon, but you don't have to do anything or interact with it in any way to get to where Ganon is. So we're just gonna go. Now the funny thing is, it's just sort of like, yeah, when I first played the game, on my first playthrough, I accidentally started the final boss fight, and I was ill prepared for what happened, and I still made it out. Now I'm over prepared, so let's see how this goes. So let's roll. I'm gonna really hope this works out as well as I hope. So yeah, as we just gonna roll in through the front door and take the fight to Ganon. That checks out. Okay, well, I mean, I guess I should have expected to get cut off pretty early on in this. Nope, stay up, stay up, stay up. Ah, man. I'm trying to, find an opening to get close to the castle. Woohoo! Can't get me! Shoot. I don't want to lose my Hylian shield until we get to Ganon. I'm just trying to cruise up onto the front door, but I suppose that's easier said than done. Owie, feet. Man, okay. My little fantasy of just rolling. Ooh, 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 ooh. I gotta. I don't know if that'll work. My thought of just oh yeah, we're just gonna roll right up to the castle front gate. We're gonna zip past a bunch of guardians. I thought it'd be a clearer shot, but I suppose they can't make it easy because it's overrun by malice. Whoops. Just gonna. I suppose I'm just gonna put you here. Oh, the door's locked. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I thought this was gonna be just woo, one big shot. No, I suppose that's fair. Just want to do a lap around these guys. Can we ride the motorcycle in the final part of the boss fight? Woo! Later! Oh. Ooh. Suppose. Back on the bike. Nope, not jump. How do we back it up? It's gotta reverse, right? Let's just reorient. Nope. Nope. Pressing the wrong button. Can't use that here. There we go. Away! Alright, I don't think we can ride this thing all the way to the top of the castle like I had hoped. Whoop! I am so cool. This is working out great. Is there... Okay. The epic stirring music, and I'm bashing into stuff, just like, oh god, this isn't working out as cool as I thought it would. Oh god, this is exhausting. I suppose this castle theme is really good. Okay, I am not going the correct way. Guards' chambers. No, this isn't where I need to be. Shoot. Okay. You know, my power fantasy isn't quite working out the way I thought. Okay, some ancient arrows, good. I know, you know, Hyrule Castle is like a whole little dungeon in itself. Sorry. Where it's just sort of like, yeah, some of the strongest enemies in the game. Okay. You know, some of the strongest enemies in the game just crawling over here, and also some of the best weaponry in the game. I'm just coming up on... Yeah. Well, you know, I'll indulge it a little bit. We'll actually properly climb through it. Not that I think we'll need other weaponry, but we can always get more weaponry. Yeah, forget it. Yeah, I thought I was literally gonna, like, there was gonna be, like, a whole ramp, you know, to get right up to the front of the castle. It's just like, yeah, gonna be great. No. Well, this is the most I've explored Hyrule Castle, really. That's what happens now that we have a good Guardian Bow. A Guardian Bow plus Guardian Arrows, yeah, it works out pretty good. Should have been using Guardian Arrows way sooner. As if it would matter, I kind of wanted to save, you know, all the champion stuff until we got to the front door, but... Later! We're getting there. There we go. This is where I was kind of hoping we'd end up at. Nope. Yeah! Close enough. Ow! Ride our horse cycle right into the center of the castle. Close enough. I was hoping to do it in one bigger shot, but that's not possible. Because what I did, I flew in through the window. Okay, that's fair. I think I jumped off a tower or something. Or, you know, I think it was like, you know, kind of towards the Korok Forest. I jumped from a cliff and floated into the castle window, and then just suddenly it's just like, oh, the final boss is starting. Because I thought just like, oh, if I get to the central, you know, big room in the castle, I can go from my central point and start looking around. Oh, we're going.
I'm sorry, but my power isn't strong enough. I can't hold.
I mean, you've been doing a great job for 100 years. I can't complain. I spent like 8 days sitting around hunting a dragon and just shooting him in the head once and then disappearing. So I can't complain. Whee! Hey there, big guy. Scourge of Hyrule Castle, Calamity Ganon. Underwhelm me, big boy. That little smirk.
Now my moment has finally come. Brace yourself, Ganon, for the sting of my revenge.
But you know, all that hard work paid off. Or is about to pay off.
Final opportunity. We will not fail.
Let's go, little guy. Now, open up wide, Ganon.
100 years in the making. Hold on, princess. Our moment has arrived.
All culminating. The entire castle blows up. Oh, he's dead, isn't he? There we go. Already a big bonus. Sorry. That didn't hurt. Let's go. Whoop. I didn't even get a chance to sword blast him. There we go. Perfect. Whoops. Boy. I mean, I suppose this is what I get for doing what I've done. Okay, it's not doing any damage anymore. Because, yeah, then after getting into this last quarter... Nope. Shoot. Okay, yeah, and then after getting him to his last quarter, we can only attack him by doing, Oh, that didn't... Yeah. So once we get him to his last quarter, we can only damage him by basically doing the Flurry Rush. Took me a while to figure that out. It's just like, why are my attacks not landing? But this is why, because he's doing his thing. Amazed that shield is not broken. There we go. So I didn't nail it the one time. I don't even have to bust out all the stops. Okay. Whoops. I mean, we're fine. Whoops. I mean, that's cool. We're still fine. Still fine. We don't need to heal. We got Mifa. Shoot. We got Mifa. I say he's not hard. He's not. I'm just, you know, not getting my timing right. Ugh, just one more freaking hit.
Your root's protected. Now ready to roll.
That was fast. There we go. Okay, again, because the thing is, he's literally just a mishmash of all the blights, so it's just like the same move sets, really. So yeah, I'm not done yet, but it's basically over considering what's next. So yeah, sorry, we're going through it. Where, yeah. Oh, hey, Epona. I forgot you existed. I got a motorcycle now, so I don't really need you.
Ganon was born out of a dark past. He is a pure embodiment of the ancient evil that is reborn time and time again. He has given up on reincarnation and assumed his pure, enraged form. If set free upon our world, the destruction will be unlike anything ever seen before.
Hatred and malice incarnate. Dark Beast Ganon.
I entrust you with the bow of light, a powerful weapon in the face of evil. Link, you may not yet be at a point where you have fully recovered your power, or all of your memories.
I'm both those things.
But courage need not be remembered, for it is never forgotten.
Grab the bow. Bow of Light. Yeah, 100 damage. Princess Zelda gave you this bow and arrow for the battle with Dark Beast Ganon. When wielded by a hero, it fires arrows of pure light strong enough to oppose the calamity. I don't need you, horse. Come on, motorcycle! Get out of there, horse! No, Pona's not even hurt. So, yeah. Do I have the bow equipped? I do not. Now it's equipped.
I will hold the malice back as much as I can, but my power is waning. Attack any glowing points that you see.
I'm waiting for him. Yeah, and you know, this is another thing people, you know, complain about, where it's just sort of like, yeah, the final form, or the second form of the boss fight isn't really much of a fight. Keep rolling. I'm working on it. So yeah, we just wait for the points to appear. Gonna jab you in the B. Gotcha. We literally just cruise around as he stumbles forth, you know, not much of a fight to be had in the second form. Not much fight to be had in the first form, but I guess it depends on how you approach it. Because again, I actually think I did better when I was underprepared. Like, I didn't eat any cooked dishes my first playthrough. I just, like, ate the raw food as I had and, like, had, you know, maybe just broke 15 hearts? Maybe? I'm stuck on a tree and I'm still doing better than ever. Yeah. Mainly, yeah, once you remember to equip the light bow, and that's the only thing that can damage those glowing points, as you mainly just run around them, you know? I'd say this kind of reminds me of, like, that one boss fight from Kingdom Hearts 2, the second time you go back to the Pride Lands, but, you know, stuff happened in that one. Sorry, that was kind of the thing, it's just sort of like, yeah, the big problem, hey, Epona, the big problem is, like, the boss fights were not the strongest part of the game, which is kind of disappointing in many regards. In the Tums. Because, you know, I've said it with the Blights. It's just sort of like, they're all kind of the same thing with a slightly different gimmick each time, but it's not that much, you know, they're not that different.
Look up there. Do it, Link.
Boom. Yeah, and just that. Just literally, it is cool to, like, jump off the horse to get that slow-mo shot in, you know, for the final shot, but, you know, that's it. Sorry to be such a downer, but no, that's it. Mess him up, girl. Sorry. Get his ass. Yeah, now that we've softened him up properly, Divine Beast doing their job, and, you know, Link taking the blade to him, weakening him enough where Zelda can finally do her thing. Destroy Ganon, complete. The ultimate goal, complete.
I've been keeping watch over you all this time. I've witnessed your struggles to return to us, as well as your trials in battle. I always thought, no, I always believed that you would find a way to defeat Ganon. I never lost faith in you over these many years. Thank you, Link. The hero of Hyrule. May I ask, do you really remember me?
And there we have it. The end of Breath of the Wild. Okay, yeah. Sorry to be so dour about the final boss, but yeah, again, it's just sort of like, it makes sense, I get it. At the same time, I'm a little underwhelmed by, you know, the blights in general, and then Ganon in general. Because the thing is, and you know, if you go to that boss fight, you know, before, you know, fighting in the Divine Beast or only fighting a few, what ends up happening is that you just fight the blights first. Oops, ow, sorry. What ends up happening is you fight the Blight Ganon separately just in that throne room, and then after you beat the 4 of them, you then fight Calamity Ganon proper, and then that whole fight plays out. Except you don't have that, you know, half his health, you know, wipeout, I'll let the credits play a bit so I can ramble. You know, you don't take out half his health in one shot, you just gotta whittle down that health bar, you know, yourself. And, you know, again, the thing about Calamity Ganon, which makes me kind of forgive him more than the Blights on their own, you know, like I've said before, the Blights are all the same boss fight, really. They're all really the same strength. It just depends on when you come after them, you know, with what armor, what weaponry you have, and that makes the difference. Ranging from, first one you might meet is going to be pretty tough, but though they don't get any stronger after that. Meanwhile, Calamity Ganon is just all those blights fused together into one beast, and it kind of looks cool. It looks horrifying. It looks very, you know, Bloodborne. But you know, but at least with, you know, I guess we'll skip ahead. And I think this is the new cutscene we get after we beat, you know, if we beat the game with all the memories.
We'll make our way to Zora's domain. Divine Beast Varuta. Looks like it's stopped working. Let's investigate the situation. Miva's father. I believe he would like to hear more about her. The least we can do is visit him and offer him some closure. Although Ganon is gone for now, there is still so much more for us to do, and so many painful memories that we must bear. I believe in my heart that if all of us work together, we can restore Hyrule to its former glory. Perhaps even beyond, but it all must start with us. Let's be off.
I got your back, girl. We'll figure this out together.
I can no longer hear the voice inside the sword. I suppose it would make sense if my power had dwindled over the past 100 years. I'm surprised to admit it, but I can accept that.
She's so precious. You know, the Silent Princess flowers, zooming in on those, because like she wanted, they prospered. Anyways, so, you know, there you go. Where, yeah, it's just like, that's the end. You know, it's like, now it's on to, you know, living until the next catastrophe. Which came a lot faster than anyone expected in Game World, probably. But, yeah, so she did hear the voice, an actual voice come from the sword, I'm assuming. That's what they're alluding to. You know, you could maybe say Fee, or maybe something like it, akin to Fee. And then, yeah, we got a little star by our thing. And it just auto-saves, so we can just replay that not great boss fight over and over again. I'm sorry, again, I'll get to that. But anyways, no, so Zelda, you know, the power, her, you know, she had that big burst of power. It doesn't seem like she can harness that anymore, really. But, you know, she might never need to. Or at least is the thought. But, you know, yeah, just, yeah, where to begin, because there's so much to talk about, and I don't want to, spend the next hour, rambling. But, there we have it. That was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. How is it? It's really freaking good. Like, okay. Like, it's, just like coming back to it, at the time, it was such a, again, I've said this, I've went into details about this before, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but, when this first came out, it was a different kind of open world than what we'd had for, basically the past decade at that point. And so with that, it's just like, so much emphasis more on exploration and actual discovery and mystery of the world, what happened, how this interpretation of, Zelda, Link, and all the characters, kind of, came about this time. Missed it. Just like everything that was going on, and the mystery behind that all in this version of the world that was so massive and so, like, thick with detail, it's just like, yeah, and, even again, years later, people are still discovering secrets about the mechanics and about the world, when the sequel is about to come out in just a couple of months. And that was just what's so cool about this, is just like, whoop. Alright. But, that's just what's so cool about, I can leave the area. That's just what was so cool about Breath of the Wild. It's just like that, kind of like that unspoken encouragement to just go. Find your fun. Find your destiny in whatever way you want to. And that was just like so freeing and open. And it let you explore Hyrule or do as much as you wanted at your own pace. In a way that, you were only encouraged to do and only rewarded for doing. Either finding a shrine or, stumbling upon, the actual plot lines of, the divine beasts and, learning about this technology and, like, piecing together Link's memory about how things were, 100 years ago. And just seeing, like, how everyone's changed. And, the voice acting was also a big change, which I'm actually, again, I'm super into. I like, the voice acting is great. I love the performances. I love Zelda especially. I just think it really works. I know people are really contentious about Zelda, especially her, like, voice actress, but I think she's perfect. But, yeah, and it just so, like, it was a new kind of Zelda game. It set up a new benchmark for not just new Zelda, it set up a new, like, outline for what new Zelda games could be and kind of what new open worlds could be. And that's the thing. It's just like a lot of games lately have been trying to copy that Breath of the Wild style since. Genshin Impact's a big one, obviously, because, yeah, it was basically like live service Breath of the Wild with a bunch of different playable characters. Which I like, but, put it this way. Replaying Breath of the Wild has really has really made me remember how not very good Genshin Impact is. I'm not gonna get to, oh, what is that? Oh, right, is that like our world percentage in the corner? It's like, after all that, I must be like 70 hours in or something, I'm not sure. I kind of wish, the Switch had better timekeeping for how long you played a game. Right, because I want to know, like, what is my exact numberage, and I'm not sure. Yeah, probably more than 70. I'm trying to think. I think it's under 100, though, because my first playthrough took me about 50, and then I stumbled upon the ending, and then we just went for it. Meanwhile, this one, now with even, doing far more than I did in my initial playthrough, plus even doing stuff like the DLC and everything, it's like, we've been on a long journey, and, and, something cool they added in the DLC was just, like, Hero's Path, so it just shows you your travel course. I died a lot on that freaking cliff. 4 times? Man, okay. Right, that was when I kept falling in the water. Yeah, it takes a little bit of a learning curve to, start getting going. But once you're going, it's just like the world is so massive and so cool. And then just like everything that happens. I found a chest there. Yeah. So just the hero's path, which just shows you like you following the line and going around, seeing everything you explored. No, pull out. And, so it's like kind of a cool, like, you can watch that and just think about, you can watch where your travel goes, and then you just, like, remember, like, oh, yeah, that's what I did when I was there. That's how I got there. And it's just kind of like a cool little, like, memento of, like, see, now we're zooming. This hero's path setting, which is just sort of like a nice reminder about, like, where you went and how you went about your journey for about, up to at least 200 hours. I'm not sure how long this really, encompasses, but probably definitely under 100, because I imagine if it tracks for 200 hours, that bar would be like half full right now. But anyways, so where was I? But, it's like the open world, this is I've said it before, a bunch of games have now been trying to copy this open world style. Genshin Impact is a big example, but, Genshin Impact is a live service first. That's the thing. And kind of looking back on it, there's a lot I do genuinely, like about Genshin, even though I just said it's not very good. But the thing about Genshin is that, yeah, it's an addiction machine, It's just supposed to keep you in, doing your dailies, and then just, like, keep giving you new content to unlock either new characters or explore a new area, but it doesn't have that same sense of adventure as this does, looking back to it. Yeah, there are some weird oddities and landmarks in the open world that you can stumble upon or, figure out puzzles beyond that, but, mainly it's just, like, all you get from it are just, like, maybe a scrap of upgrade material, and that's about it. And again, it's just meant to keep you going back to it over and over again, signing in daily, and just, like, again, it's a grind machine. It just wants you to keep playing, and it does admittedly get very mindless. I say that as if I haven't played that for, like, 300 hours. Most of that was, like, last year. Oh, God. But anyways, that's kind of the thing about Genshin. And, I was playing that before I went back to this. But the thing I kind of, the thing is, when I started playing this, I was getting back into Genshin again. And I still had, like, a couple, put it this way, I had a couple of days of Welkin still going, if you know what I mean, where it's just, like, signing daily and just get free money that, pay for a small subscription, so every day you log in, you get, the premium currency. And I had, like, a couple days left on that. I just stopped logging in because to play Genshin and log in would mean I wouldn't be playing Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't stand that. So that was just kind of the thing. It's just like Breath of the Wild completely enraptured me. And it was only after, like 50 hours where then I tried going above and beyond, something around that lines. Probably closer to like 30 or 40. But, it was only after I tried to go above and beyond and do stuff I had never done before, like finding every single shrine, before I picked up the Master Sword. And then, doing the Master Sword trials to make that permanently more powerful, which is a whole ordeal in itself. And then the DLC, which has you going back and forth, back to the completed Divine Beasts, and, with new challenges and a bunch of new other stuff. So it's just, like, way more content than I ever did, and there's still stuff I'm missing. If that's what the percentage on the map is saying, like, 78 hours in, and I only have, like, less than 30% of the game done. And the thing is, most of that probably includes the side quests, and then the, Korok seeds, which I'm not terribly interested in. So, I've played enough. I'm satisfied with my adventure, I was pointing around a lot. What was I doing? But anyways, I'm satisfied with my adventure. Because, yeah, it just sort of like, this was still a lot of fun. Again, I like the shrines that are literal all over the place. They're kind of like, mini dungeons that, yeah, have repetitive scenery and, I guess kind of lose their luster after you decide to go after, like, all 120. Like, 60, 70 of them, depending on which ones you stumble upon. Because you could just find the boring ones, and a lot of the boring ones consist of the tests of strength, which are repetitive and not that interesting. By the time you're strong enough where you stumble upon one where you can beat a major one, those are never going to give you a problem again. Because that's what happened. Once you're strong enough to take on a major test of strength, without much issue, that's it. Because even if you run into a minor one or a modest one, it's going to be way too it's going to be, a cakewalk in comparison. And then even still, by going to a modest test or a major test of strength, you probably have the insight on just like how to fight that thing no matter what weapon setup it might have. So it's no big deal. And that's just kind of the thing, because, yeah, there's a lot of those, and there's also a bunch of, like, shrines that are really annoying to get to, mainly, like, what was it? Not Test of Wood, that one was cool, I think, but no, the one with the Waki, or Oki, or whatever, the little Korok, Sama gun, who, you had to tail, Assassin's Creed, tailing mission, ugh. That was probably the worst one, really. And that was mainly just because, like, the trial and error nonsense of that. I know people will say, just so, like, oh, you just, like, blow open the side of a cave and there's one right there. It's not even a challenge. It's like, no, but at least it's not Iwaki. And there are some like that, where it's just, like, some have really cool settings, like the one in, like, the Thunder Plateau or whatever. That's kind of cool. It's just, like, how do you get these across, or, get these, spears to the post you need to in the middle of an endless rain. And a lot of that is just like using stasis and knocking them over, but there are other ways you could do that too. And stuff like that. The 7 heroines, where it's just sort of like, you gotta find the spheres and then you gotta put them in the right spot. Because the marking is somewhere on the heroine, but it's not in the same place every time. Or, on each of them. So, that was kind of the cool thing. It's just like, there was a lot of really cool, things to find and do all across the world. And again, yeah, of course something gets a little boring after you do it, after you kind of like push yourself to do even more than necessary. Sorry. So, that was kind of the thing. It was just sort of like, yeah, I was getting a little burnt out. Just trying to find stuff, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to look it up so I can move on with my life. Which, it's like, you don't have to do that. You can just stay focused on the exploration and discover everything naturally, but, that, you need to account for, like, time and stuff like that, and that was just mainly the thing. It's just sort of like, yeah, the exploration is great, but I want to find the stuff, and move on, because I want to do that in order to get to the other stuff, I wanted to find all the shrines, and then go after the Master Sword after having the Wild Gear, so then I could tackle the Master Sword trials, which is new stuff I have not done before, which was an interesting, really cool challenge in and of itself, even if the third wave was really annoyingly tough. But then same with the Champion's Ballad, where it's just sort of like, they kind of made shrines fresh again, where, yeah, some of them had, like, pretty lame, requirements to get to awaken the shrine, but once you were inside the shrine, it really made you mix and match all your, your Sheikah Slate abilities and put them all together to solve those really challenging puzzles. And I thought that was really cool. And that's the thing. It's just sort of like, it's kind of the realization, which I didn't really appreciate back then. It's just sort of like, yeah, you can beat every shrine really with just your Sheikah Slate abilities, aside from the test of strength, but either if you take gear from a shrine, that'll be enough to go into those challenges. Or, if you just want to huck a bomb at the same Guardian for 40 minutes or something. But anyways, so it's like, it is just really cool, like, the versatility you're able to give. And even some of the shrines can be solved in multiple forms, by using your abilities, your Sheikah Slate, either intentionally or unintentionally. I've seen people, like, you know, drop 2 bombs while they were still in midair and then launch them, you know, whatever it's called. I know there's a speedrunning term for it, but, you know, launching themselves with a bomb over the wall of a shrine, and it's just like, hey, that's it, you know, what's my time? And stuff like that. But, you know, that's a totally acceptable tactic because, you know, it's within the game's mechanics. And that's just the thing. It's just like there's so many weird physics, you know, things that you can do and so many things you can play around with, which stuff I want to do more. I was just so focused on the main journey because I did like the main journey. Because I do, you know, even if some of the, you know, I do like the characters we do get to interact with. There's only very few. But, you know, in the Zora's Domain, when we can talk to Sidon, you know, Yonobu, Riju, Teba, as they're all trying to find, like, their place in the world, and, you know, finally having the opportunity is just sort of like, I've been wanting to do something for a long time, but I've never had the right moment to do it, but now you're here, and I think maybe it's time. And, you know, you just give them that opportunity to really, you know, finally act the way they've wanted to for years, while also dealing with their own baggage, like Riju and Yonobu, where just sort of like, yeah, we're kind of expected to be important, but we don't know what to do about it. And, you know, that kind of expectation puts a lot of weight on you, which is exactly how Zelda felt the entire time, because she's expected, you know, even more. Yonobu and Riju were meant to be like, oh, we're expected to be good leaders, but, you know, it's a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, Zelda is just sort of like, you literally have to save the world, otherwise everyone dies. So, you know, no pressure or anything, but all the pressure. That was the thing about Zelda. And again, I like, you know, there's a lot of hidden stuff. I complain about the story of the game because there's really not much to it. But I suppose there is a lot of underlying stuff. And the thing is, if you know, this is supposed to be a game where a Link's got to remember everything that happened. We're learning the world as he is. So it's just like, it can't bog you down with too many cutscenes or character moments because they just want to get you back into exploration, and there are only a few set parts where they will interrupt you to, you know, focus in on, you know, where the main story beat is. But that's mainly, again, that's only a couple of times, and it's in when you finally approach the most important places in the game, and then, you know, it's like you got to make the decision to commit to, you know, an hour or two of just sort of like, you know, many cutscenes and important things going on, you know, taking you away from the exploration because you decided to stop exploring and go do the central, you know, goal. Sorry. So, but anyways, I'm bouncing between topics because there's so much to talk about, and I'm rehashing a lot of stuff I've said throughout the game, but, you know, I like the new champions, and I kind of wish we got more of seeing the old champions, and again, part of that I kind of got more of out of Age of Calamity, the Hyrule Warriors game, that was a surprise release, and, you know, there's a lot going on with that one where it's just sort of like, it was hyped up as a prequel, but it's not really because it does time travel shenanigans. But, you know, you can still apply a lot of what goes on in there to here, and it's just sort of like, you know, some of the beats are different, but, you know, some of the beats are different, but you can make a facsimile of just sort of like what happened in there to the story of here. You know, so that's kind of how it pieces together. But, you know, but the cool thing about Age of Calamity is that, you know, it's just sort of like, there were subtle changes. There were slight changes where, you know, Zelda realized how to harness her power. Well, if I remember how the order of how things worked, you know, Zelda realized how to harness her power earlier, but it was still too late when, you know, everything was already falling apart. But the cool thing about Age of Calamity is that your actions in Breath of the Wild further change that timeline. As the new champions, Sidon, Teba, Yonobu, Riju, go back in the past to another timeline to save the old champions and then fight Calamity Ganon in that timeline. And give that world actually a happy ending. You know, it's kind of like Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, where it's just sort of like, he's going back in time, he can't fix his timeline, but he can go back to another one and make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's kind of what Age of Calamity is, where it's like, we get the good ending, you know, to this world, but, you know, it was at the cost of another one. And, you know, I'm kind of expecting that in Tears of the Kingdom, where it's just going to be like, well, you know, things are going down, we need some help, let's go gather new champions, and they can help us fight Ganon again. What do you mean they disappeared one day and they haven't come back yet? That's what I'm expecting to happen. It's just like, we're going to go look for Sidon or something. It's just sort of like, what do you mean he disappeared and we can't find him? Only for him to maybe show up at the end or something, flash that smile. I'm assuming. Sorry, I have so much to say, but it's like, I've said it all, you know, scattered about all across this Let's Play. So it's just like, I should, you know, not linger too much. And mainly, you know, in the end, Breath of the Wild is really good. You know, any problems I do have with it, mainly the stealth, the underwhelming bosses, and, you know, at least with, the thing is about, like, at least with Ganon, the reward, you know, the reward for your efforts throughout the game is trivializing him and making him easy. That's kind of the thing. But, you know, you could say the same about the Blights, but it's just sort of like, I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't feel the same. But, and meanwhile, yeah, like the final battle with Ganon, yeah, the more prepared you are, that's your, you know, the more prepared you are, the easier he gets, and that's your reward for, you know, trouncing him so thoroughly. But at the same time, it's also kind of like, you know, it's still a bit underwhelming because there's not that much to him. And then the, you know, Beast Ganon fight also doesn't do much. So it's just sort of like, you know, hit and miss. That's the thing. You know, each of the like, mini bosses throughout the world, you know, it's cool to just, like, travel the world and suddenly the music picks up, or you see a health bar pop up out of nowhere. It's just like, wait, where's this? And then you're being harried by something. But other than that, other than that, there were some, you know, underwhelming aspects to it, but at the same time, not that big of a deal. So that's me taking on Eventide. Getting my wild armor. Going to the shrine. Popping in there a billion times. Just watching, this might have been when I was doing some grinding. But anyways. But, you know, it's... This is me doing the... or maybe? Yeah, this is me doing the grinding for the dragon parts. Yeah, I went back there because I made a mistake. But anyways... I'm losing track. You know, there's so much to talk about, and I think I've said enough, and I've said it over and over again throughout a couple of different parts in the Let's Play. But no, yeah, overall, there's still so much to like about Breath of the Wild, and yeah, it holds up. You know, this really could be, you know, I really liked it back when I first played it, but I'm just sort of like, well, that's done now. You know, it's just like, yeah, it's amazing. But, you know, that's it. But now I'm kind of like, yeah, this could be, you know, one of my all-time favorite games, or at least top 10, you know, somewhere in there. And, you know, I kind of bring myself to a similar thought I have about Elden Ring, and I kind of brought this up before, because, yeah, there are a bunch of games that are trying to mimic the Breath of the Wild style. Genshin Impact, obviously, Elden Ring, also obviously, which I think does a really good job at that. You know, it is just basically Breath of the Wild, but it's Souls-like, and it's awesome. But kind of the debate I've had with myself about Elden Ring is that, you know, I really like Elden Ring. You know, giant open world, that sense of discovery you get, like, from Breath of the Wild, you know, finding items, finding new items, customizing your build to do different things, and, you know, so much more. So many cool boss fights, so much interesting lore. But then I have to ask myself, do I like it more than Bloodborne? Which is again, another one of my all-time favorite games, and, you know, that one's at least top 5. But I go, it's just like, but do I like, you know, which one do I like better? Which do I think does what it does better? You know, Bloodborne, because the thing about Elden Ring, yeah, it's massive, it's gargantuan, but kind of like this, Breath of the Wild, it does drag a bit after a while, and depending on what you do, it can actually, you know, and some build up to certain things can be actually kind of underwhelming. Meanwhile, Bloodborne is a lot tighter, you know, it is, yeah, more linear, and not nearly as much customization, but it's very consistent, you know, it's a tighter experience, everything is more contained, everything is easier to keep track of, and, yeah, it's just kind of like, you know, it's got a formula that, you know, is pretty consistent, you know, you're not, yeah. So, well, you know, and that's kind of what I'm asking. I could go into more depth on that, but I should move on to more the next point, where I kind of feel like I feel about Breath of the Wild the same way I feel about that combination. You know, Breath of the Wild is really good, one of my you know, favorite games, but do I like it more than my previous favorite Zelda game, which in my case would be Twilight Princess? And, you know, you could have people scoff at you for that idea. It's just like, how could you like, you know, a formulaic, boring Zelda game like Twilight Princess more than Breath of the Wild, which lets you explore all this stuff? And it's just like, no, actually the distinction is pretty simple, because it's stuff I've said before. Again, yeah, the world is really cool. It gives you so much emphasis to explore and so many weird physics details. And you know, it's just like emphasis on exploration, but that can drag on after a while, and it can just lose that luster a little bit. And, you know, what it does weak kind of really stick out, such as, you know, the actual, like, you know, plot beats that they're not able to do much with, because they're not trying to restrict, you know, the flow of your gameplay. And, you know, it also leads to some underwhelming stuff, like, yeah, the lackluster boss fights, you know, and stuff like that. Meanwhile, something like Twilight Princess, yes, follows a formula, a consistent formula pretty much through every part of the game, but, you know, it works, you know, that consistency also helps, you know, you have that constant flow of story where it's just sort of like, yeah, you got your companion character who's telling you just like, here's what's going on, and, you know, here's what we have to, you know, check out. It's more linear. Like this you can do in any order, but, you know, while Twilight Princess is more linear, you have to do things in a set way. Again, that formula keeps the flow going in a very consistent pattern. And then also, because it's staying that consistent, it knows the right times to introduce new certain characters or advance certain character arcs, you know, hit you with certain plot points and move along. Again, and, you know, the exploration is not as vast, but that means it's not overwhelming either. So it's just sort of like, yeah, it might be simpler, but, you know, they can still pack a lot into, you know, the areas you are able to explore, if I'm making sense, you know? Again, it might not seem, you know, without the rules and everything, it might not seem like I'm making a point, but no, there is like a solid argument, I feel, to that, you know. Well, and also just like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the vastness and openness of this, or do you prefer like the tight, you know, it's just like, well, you know, it's not that bad of a, you know, big of a comparison. It's just like, you know, the thing about open worlds is, yeah, they're open, they're free, you can go whatever, you can do whatever, but that content feels reused after a while, and then it gets stale. And, you know, and it can go on for a long time, but again, sometimes it's just filler. It's just, you know, filler. I already said that. I was trying to think of another word, but it's like, no, filler is the right word. Meanwhile, zoom in for fun. Meanwhile, you know, the thing about having like a, you know, story-heavy game instead is that, you know, that consistency, a narrative that, you know, is following all the way through, you know? I'm trying to think of better examples, but it's just sort of like, the thing about the open world game is like, yeah, you can go wherever, but, if you don't know where to go, yeah, I've already said it. Sorry, I'm losing it now. Like, I think I lost my thread. I lost the thunder I was going for. It's just like, I got a very excellent point to make, and I've lost it, so now it just sounds like I'm making excuses. But, no, I'm meaning to say, there's merit to a simple, tight experience of a narrative, of a storyline, compared to the vast openness of a giant world like this. It just depends on, what are you in the mood for, or how do they present those things. Breath of the Wild changed up how we approach open world games, putting a bigger lenience on that freedom, when something like, Assassin's Creed or Horizon Zero Dawn, just peppered you with stuff to do, with checklists, and achievements and trophies to go after, and, even if it could have a cool narrative, maybe it couldn't do enough with it. So, it's just like, what do you prefer, or what are you interested in? Sorry. But, it's just like, it just varies. But meanwhile, again, I've been lounging on that point for way too long, so I apologize if I'm not making much sense. Properly scripting this out, and I wanted to do that. I had a video idea, just like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring versus Bloodborne and Twilight Princess, and then kind of like go in more depths on these points. But, it's just sort of like, it's just like a fun debate I have with myself. It's just sort of like, I don't... Sorry. Because that's the thing, I like all 4 of those games, and it doesn't have to be a competition on which ones I think are superior to their, to each other, but it's a fun debate to have. It's just sort of like, yeah, I really like these giant open world games that put an emphasis on exploration, but I also like the, the tightness of the adventure, and, more, emphasis on the scope that's built up, in the narrative that we're given, But, anyways, sorry, I'm rambling. I'm probably not making much sense, but let's move on to then talk about the future of, Breath of the Wild likes. Where, we got Tears of the Kingdom coming out in a couple of months. And, based on the trailers and everything, it's just going to be Breath of the Wild, but more, which... just sounds great, Breath of the Wild, but more sounds like a winning formula. It's just like, what are they going to do to, add to that or change it, and, what will happen? And, my biggest hopes are they improve the stealth mechanics. Mainly that's the big thing. And I kind of hope we get more narrative time, It's like, I want to interact with Zelda and, the interesting characters we met along the way far more. And that's kind of the big thing I'm hoping for. And, again, the otherwise also better boss fights. But we should be getting some interesting, story beats. Because, it's just sort of like, Zelda's said, just so like, I can't feel the power anymore, but maybe that's alright. Because, the implication being, we won't need it anymore. But, that's apparently not the case. Where at least what we've seen from the very, haunting trailers is that Ganondorf is actually, resting somewhere underground, somewhere in the castle or something like that, and he's being awakened. It's the dehydrated Ganon meme, and now he's back. And that kind of makes me think, all of this, was the easy, because they talk about, like, the background, where it's just, like, 10,000 years ago was the last time Ganon was fought and defeated by the Sheikah, weaponizing their, automated army, automation army, you get the point. The Sheikah robot army, and then just decimated Ganon, and then, that was it. Meanwhile, it sounded like, they made it seem like Ganon was so thoroughly trounced that just pissed him off. And so my thought is just like, Calamity Ganon, this corruption we've been seeing, throughout the world, that's literally just been Ganon just sort of like, Rage Musk, simmering for 10,000 years, and has just been so angry that what we saw was just the byproduct of his anger built up over, millennia. So, that was not Ganon. That was, all that was not actually Ganon's true power. It was just like the residual anger taking shape and, screwing things up. That anger of being defeated by, being cornered on all ends by these robots, which had then used that corrupting anger to take over and make sure no one could use them against him again. But once we get rid of those, he's out in the open, and, as Zelda said, it's like he's no longer reincarnating into, like, a physical form. It is just, like, a cloud of, he's taken the shape of just of the, sorry, you get the point, where it's just sort of like, he's no longer going into a physical form anymore. He is just, a cloud of anger. And that's all he needs to be. And, at least my thought process is just sort of like, yeah, but, it's like, that's what he's saying is like, he no longer reincarnates into a physical body. He just stays in rage form. But what if that wasn't even his reincarnation? Again, that was just a byproduct of his anger from losing last time, solidified, if you get my drift. So, then we get Dehydrated Ganon, which has been out of commission for even longer now. And now that form being awakened is going to be the true test. It's going to be Ganon, like, fully realized, properly coming back this time. Well, all this was a byproduct of his power. We're going to see the full scope of what he's capable of, and it's going to be far greater than anything that's happened here, is my thought. So that's just kind of my thought process there. And, we'll see what happens when it comes out in a couple of months. And, from there, so it's like Ganon, I hope, is going to be a much bigger presence in the story. We're going to see him more. We're going to hear from him more. Because, again, Ganon, I get it. I get it. He is literally just supposed to be the essence of evil. That's what he represents. Just like, it doesn't make a super compelling villain, though, because it's just sort of like, yeah, it's a, even though I'm all about, like, this character represents the systemic issue of, this, this plight, you know what I mean? But I kind of want to see more of that. I want to see more out of him, where it's just sort of like, I want him to rub it in my face that he knows he's the strongest guy in the world, and he's going to mess me up, But we'll see. We'll see how things play out in Tears of the Kingdom when it comes out. So yeah, I hope we get to see, see more of Ganon, who, seems to be being voiced by Matt Mercer, so that's a lot of fun. I hope we get more interactions with Zelda. I kind of, like I think I said this before, where I think Zelda is going to be our, she's going to be our fairy for next game. She's going to be our Navi, she's going to be our Midna, she's going to be our travel companion, either like calling in on the Sheikah Slate, checking in, or, going with us in some form, even as like a little ball of light following us around, like making notes about stuff as we go, or popping in to talk to characters when we find, the plot crucial areas, stuff like that. And that might not happen because they don't want to mess up the formula of just sort of like, they want it quiet so you can just explore on your own without any distractions from back chat. But I kind of want the back chat, I want to interact with characters more, I just want to see more of this world. But anyways, what else was I going to say? There's more I was going to say, but, it's just like, Tears of the Kingdom is looking to be just Breath of the Wild, but more, and it's looking to already be amazing. I'm still not crazy about Nintendo charging $70 for it, and that's kind of like a different issue, where it's just sort of like, Nintendo's hopping on the AAA train, Jen, thanks Sony for that, for charging $70 for your games, and thinking because people praised us for, almost a decade for how good our exclusives are, we're gonna put their money where their sorry. That's a rant where it's just like, yeah, sorry, that's Sony, where we gave them way too much, credit when they released great games like Spider-Man and God of War and Last of Us, where then they go like, oh yeah, everyone says we make the best games ever. We can justify charging more because everyone says they would pay more, they're so good. And then they actually did it, and it's so freaking frustrating. And now everyone else is jumping on it, and even Nintendo is jumping on it. Because I remember seeing that, where it's just sort of like, hey, Tears of the Kingdom price leaked online. And people are just sort of like, oh, that must be a mistake. There's no way Nintendo, of all companies, is going to start charging $70, start doing the upcharge thing, the needless upcharge, like every other company. Well, Nintendo's another company too, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I am a bit disappointed, but that's another issue. So I'm not crazy about that. Not that I don't think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be worth the money, but they just didn't need to grub like that, but it's already too late. And trust me, it coincides with Nintendo bringing back their vouchers, their vouchers, where it's just sort of like, yeah, $100, and then you get 2 vouchers to redeem 2 games. All right, that's a $20 saving, basically. Might not sound great, but it's a great way to, buy new games or hold on to them until new things release. And then, it's no coincidence, it is definitely no coincidence that Nintendo releases the Nintendo vouchers around the time they announce Tears of the Kingdom, which is $70. So now you're looking at that and going like, it's $70, really? Well, I can then use the Nintendo voucher and, just redeem one of those. That way I'm saving, even more money on the purchase using the voucher, and I get another game out of it, and we're caught in the trap. That's the ploy, isn't it? Where with that, they've immediately, sorry, I'm talking too much and I'm getting really dry here. And with that, they've, made it acceptable. Because that's what's going to happen is, if a lot of people buy it digitally, they're probably going to do it through the vouchers maybe, and then it's just sort of like, it's going to be looked at as just sort of like, wow, selling the new Breath of the Wild, selling the new Zelda game at $70 really worked out. That means we can do this for our other properties. So, expect Mario Odyssey 2 or whatever will eventually come out to be $70. Expect Metroid Prime 4 to be $70 when it releases, and that's just not a great precedent to set. But this is the world we're stuck in, and it's always been bad. But either way. So, sorry, I think we can wrap up. So, yeah, sorry about my rambling. I just there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and a lot of stuff I have talked about already. So, I'm kind of just also losing my mind here because just sort of like, yeah, there's a lot more I could say, but I'm getting really dry. And, I just kind of hit my threshold. Hold on. Ugh, jeez, not enough. But, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to say. But, there's also so much to talk about. I'm losing track of myself because there's just so much to go over. But, in the end, I'm still excited for Tears of the Kingdom, even with my little rant there. And Breath of the Wild, yeah, definitely, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. It's like, yeah, probably one of my, all-time favorite games. And I can't wait to see what the future has more for Zelda. And even I'm looking forward to go back to the past of Legend of Zelda, because as much as this blew my mind, I still like the old Zelda games, and there's even ones I want to go back to. I got Link's Awakening that I've been playing a bit on my own time, not much, because I want to record that, and I've really been liking it. I've been jumping back into Skyward Sword HD on the Switch, and I'm actually kind of getting into that too, way more than I did the original version of the game. And I want to go back to that too. And, find that comparison. Or, find the merits in that as well. Because, you can also kind of see Skyward Sword as being like the Dark Souls 2 of the Zelda franchise. And by that I mean, it was the first form of what would eventually become its biggest, release. you know, when Elden Ring came out, a lot of people compared it to Dark Souls. Dark Souls 2 did a lot of, like, way more open in the beginning, the way it did its stats, the way Dark Souls 2 did things. It was very clear, you know, how much inspiration, how much that was actually the original blueprint for what Elden Ring would eventually become. And Skyward Sword is kind of the same way with Zelda, with Breath of the Wild in hindsight, where with things like the sailcloth and the crafting systems and the gear management, and, you know, stuff like that, where Skyward Sword was kind of like the first blueprint for what eventually would be Breath of the Wild, and that seems even more the case with Tears of the Kingdom, you know? So, you know, we'll have to see, and, you know, we'll just see how things go. But, as far as things are concerned now, you know what, that's Breath of the Wild, and, yeah, I just got nothing to add. It's like, there's way more I could do, but I think I'm good. You know, I've done enough, I've done what I wanted to, I am fully satisfied with this, and now it's just to wait till, you know, Tears of the Kingdom. So, sorry, I'm rambling, and I should really wrap it up. So, with that all being said, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, like and subscribe and all that. This is Timmara, signing off, and thank you for watching me play The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.